Hello and welcome to the Go for Wood Lounge. I am Arc Press Senior Editor DJ Butler. Come on in out of the rain. Before we get started, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, go to arc.press and sign up for the mailing list. Come find us also on X. Our handle is arc_press and follow us there. Do all of the customary things. We're here today introducing my friend and our Arc Press writer Uri Kurlianchik. We haven't been hiding him, but this is maybe the first time we're really going to sort of bring him front and center. Uri, welcome to the channel.
Uh, Thank you, and hello.
So let's get a little bit of you know what, let me say I'm going to give you just a very briefest hint about
Mhm.
the Uri Kurlianchik novel coming out from us. We'll talk about it really another time, but it's a young adult fantasy novel involving giants. Very cool kind of quasi biblical magic and a sort of an ancient threat that is also a weapon of mass destruction. And kids in a border town trying to put all these pieces together and save everybody. So we'll talk about that later. Let's talk about you, Uri.
My favorite subject.
Perfect. Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? Where are you now?
Okay, so I was born in Moscow in the Soviet Union. We left when I was about 5, after which the Soviet Union collapsed. They just couldn't handle things without me. And uh, I grew up in Israel, but I kept speaking Russian to my family, and I had some Russian-speaking friends. I very much had a bilingual childhood.
And that would be
I
Russian Hebrew, probably.
Russian and Hebrew, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I learned English in school just like everyone else.
Yeah.
No shortcuts there. Honestly, nobody really learns English in school. You learn English from video games and watching Indian television and slowly understanding more and more. I would watch X-Files and Star Trek, and I didn't understand anything, but it was really interesting. So, catch a word here, I watch there, and suddenly you speak the language.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think computer games did more to teach me English than my teacher. No disrespect meant to the hard work she put in me. Um, I write in English because my objective is basically to take my non-Anglophone experience and to show it to the English-speaking world. Because one of the things it's not about is, like, for example, Israelis don't need a novel about Israel. They live in Israel. They don't need me to tell about how they see the world. I want to show other people how they see the world. Um, in this regard, I guess you could say that in a way, my novel is also, I don't really like this term, but it's post-colonial,
Hmm.
because people sometimes use it in the context of, these extremist, anti-Western views. So, no, not at all. And that's not where I come from. But as part of the post-colonial world, and let's be honest, America is also part of the post-colonial world. Most of the world is post-colonial. It's like I want to show the colonies to the
Yeah.
original people. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
Interesting.
my idea.
So you are Russian and also Israeli, right? And
No, I'm not Russian. I'm entirely Jewish.
oh, okay. All right. With a Russian background.
I'd say Soviet, yeah. But I
Oh,
speak
Soviet.
Russian.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
But like in my birth certificate, in all the documents
Yeah.
belong to my family, the word Russian has never appeared. It was always Ivri,
Interesting. Yeah.
Jewish, Hebrew. Because in the Soviet Union, they had ethnicity in your passport. That was like, well, they call it
Interesting.
nationality, but technically it's ethnicity. And they would actually write Hebrew. Who are you? You're Hebrew. You're Russian. You're Ukrainian. So that was
Fascinating.
like
Okay.
one of the identities. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Uh, so you left the Soviet Union. You were
Hmm.
a young Hebrew child in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Um, had your family been there like previously? Like were your family there during, the Tsarist
Yes.
rule? How long had you been in Russia?
The family, well, I was able to track it back 8 generations, but probably it was longer, just there are no records.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're not exactly royalty, so
Yeah.
the records
Okay.
don't go back very long,
Yeah.
but at least from the late 18th century.
Okay. Okay. So you live in the Soviet Union. You have no Russian citizenship now. You grew up
No,
speaking Russian. Your family are Jews from the former Soviet Union.
yes,
Okay, very interesting. So, and you live in Ashdod, right? Which I am I is that right?
actually, I'm currently in Ashford, but I don't live here. It's my parents' place.
Oh, right.
I was called today to do some housekeeping,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
so that's where you found me. Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
live near Modi'in. It's a very nice town in the hills. That's where the first rebellion started. So they have a
That's
very
right.
bloody history.
That's right. The Hasmoneans, right? That's
Yes,
Mattathias refused to perform the sacrifice.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so okay, and but you're down right now in an old Philistine city on the coast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of
So
the Mediterranean.
the Mediterranean, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting, right? I mean, look from a U.S. perspective, right? Two of the biggest things in the news every day. One of them is Russia, and
Hmm.
and the other one is Israel.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's interesting to kind of talk to you. I'd love to get your perspective on that stuff, but maybe more urgently for the channel.
Hmm.
I'd love to hear about. So this is not your debut novel. I mean, I know you've got
Hmm.
a novel that was published by Wordfire Press. I know you've got
Hmm.
short fiction. I know you've written for game companies,
I
right?
have.
So I'd love to hear kind of how did you um as a kid growing up speaking Russian and Hebrew, the
Hmm.
learning English in school, how did you decide that science fiction and fantasy was a thing you were interested in? And then how did you decide that you were going to create it?
So there were several very clear points when it happened. First of all, when I was in the first grade, there was an American boy there, an
Mhm.
immigrant from the United States. Um, and he spoke about Dungeons and Dragons. He didn't exactly know what Dungeons and Dragons was, but it just sounded so awesome. And we often talked about it. And our conversation, as I later found out, had absolutely nothing to do with what Dungeons and Dragons is. But it just, stuck with me, just the word Dungeons and Dragons, it sounds so evocative and interesting. So, like, literally from the first grade, I was interested in it. And then there was a magazine called Arrive La Noir, Marie for Youth, a youth magazine. And it wasn't, I had zero interest in the magazine, but on the last page, each time there was like a short fantasy story inspired by some guy's D&D campaign. Just, a few paragraphs. And, about dark elves and mind flayers, and stuff like that. And like I would cut those out, and I was absolutely mesmerized by those. So, from very early childhood, I had very strong interest in it. And actually, I came from it from role-playing games. Then they translated Shadowrun into Hebrew. We all bought anything about Red to Dungeons and Dragons we could in Hebrew as well. So I came to this world from the role-playing game. The other
Yeah.
thing is that my parents, both active science fiction readers, they like worship Ray Bradbury and Shackley. When they came from the Soviet Union, they brought like their entire library with them, which in retrospect wasn't very wise. But they thought, oh my God, we're going to the Middle East. It's primitive. We won't be able to get books. So they brought like 500 books from there. Um, and so I was surrounded by golden age science fiction. Well, we spoke about Asimov, Heinlein, Shackley, Bradbury. Uh, I think one of the most influential books I ever read was The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. Like
Mhm.
that book like blew my mind. It completely changed my aesthetical perception of art, of beauty, and just science fiction was more real than reality for me because mostly because of Bradbury. And Shakti showed me that it could be fun. It could be very fun, very lively. You aren't constrained by the real world. So these like these 2 points. I
Yeah.
actually started writing in 2005 when I was in the military,
Hmm.
and I don't remember who said it. Someone said, "You run so many adventures. Why don't you try to publish an adventure?" And I thought, why not? And I started submitting my adventures to Dungeon magazine, and they rejected them, rejected them, rejected them. But it became kind of a routine. I submit, they reject. And one day they said, "Okay, we're going to buy this adventure." And I must have misread. Oh no, they actually want to buy this adventure.
How
And
fun.
and since then, yeah, I've been doing that pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I've written for Paizo, for Wizards of the Coast, for Gunmetal Games, for Mongoose. And from there, I also started writing fiction.
So, okay, so military service, that's like 18 to 20, something like that. What age
Yeah,
is? Yeah.
18 to
Okay.
21.
Okay, so you're sort of encountering this stuff maybe at the very end of the 80s or in the 90s, um, and you're a kid in school.
Hmm.
What's the social meaning of that? Like if you're reading science fiction and 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 maybe you were reading it in Russian, right? You're
Hmm.
reading Russian.
Mostly
Was it
Hebrew.
English? Oh, Hebrew. Okay.
I
Uh,
learned English a bit later. The first book I read in English was The Godmakers by Frank Herbert.
Frank
I absolutely
Herbert.
don't remember this book, but I just
Yeah.
like the picture on the cover. And
Yeah.
we had no time. We had to read the book in English, so I chose it mostly because it was short. But it was yeah.
That's excellent. So your parents' library that they brought, was that in Hebrew too, mostly?
No, it was in Russian.
In Russian.
We
Okay.
learned Hebrew here in Israel.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so you're reading this stuff. Um, I'm a little older than you. For
Hmm.
me, the social meaning of being a kid who liked role-playing games was actually pretty negative. In the sense that like it gave me friends. I had friends and
Hmm.
like it gave me a lot of joy. It's the thing I spent just hours and hours of my
Hmm.
time doing, but it wasn't cool. And most parents didn't like it either. And so it was sort of you had to be kind of secretive about it and
Hmm.
downplay it a little bit. Um, what was it like for you being a gamer in the in the 90s and the aughts?
So in the US, you had this certain stigma about Dungeons and Dragons. I
Yeah,
remember, people talking about the satanic panic. There was
yeah,
nothing like that in Israel. First, it was something very obscure. People just didn't know what it is. And, the kid has a hobby. Great. It's good for people to have hobbies.
yeah.
It's good that you're reading. They don't really care what you read, science fiction, fantasy, whatever. As long as you're reading, that's great. So there was no stigma, and always there have been, for example, Dungeons and Dragons classes in Israeli schools, like even in the
Wow,
90s.
how interesting.
Yeah.
So,
So
uh,
that was something absolutely acceptable, and like it wasn't cool. Obviously, it didn't like open the doors to cool clubs or anything, but there wasn't really a stigma against it either.
yeah,
It's just it's what nerds did. Obviously, jocks don't like nerds, etc. It's the
yeah.
default. But Dungeons and Dragons in and of itself, if you told someone you play D&D, you would just get no reaction at all. Like, okay, have a
Mhm.
hobby, cool, have
Yeah,
fun.
interesting. Uh, I know at one point, I don't know if you're still doing this, but at one point you were working at a school and you were running the sort of Dungeons and Dragons club after school, I
Yeah.
think, right? Is that
Yeah,
or is it?
that's my day job.
Oh yeah,
I still do that. I work in many schools and community centers. These are like private groups. Some of them are in schools, some of them are community centers, some of them are at people's homes. Yes, it's very common in Israel. Almost every school has at least one program like that.
oh wow,
So yes, it's important to note, including religious schools. So there's absolutely no stigma about it. Like obviously, the ultra Orthodox are against us. They're against everything. but religious Zionist schools. Like one of the schools, the rabbi of the school actually invited me to start the program. So
Yeah,
yeah, so you have no issue, of D&D being like demonic or satanic or anything. No, no one cares.
yeah. That's interesting. So I'm curious, is your job wider than that? Do you do that also and other things for the school, or is it that like this is literally what you are? You're the school's D&D instructor.
This is literally what I am. I don't do anything else.
Yeah, wow. Okay. That's absolutely fascinating. So here's a question. I know people, I have done a very small amount of this myself,
Hmm.
who will um sometimes I've heard this called scripture D&D, but the idea is you could play a role-playing game, but you could
Hmm.
deliberately choose the Bible as your setting. So a friend of mine who is um he's actually his dad is Jewish, but his family is also Sikh,
Hmm.
and also Mormon. He's very complex religiously.
Yeah.
Um, does this with his kids, and they like pick. And so last time he and I were talking about it, in fact, the Hasmonean revolt, the Maccabees, they were
Hmm.
they were doing a sort of a scripture D&D campaign, playing out the Maccabees,
That's
and
very cool.
yeah, and he said, but
Great
there
for
were
Hanukkah.
yeah, exactly. He said there are a lot more shape changers in this
Hmm.
version of the story. Anyway, I'm curious if if that at all is part of it, or is straight up we're gonna play Forgotten Realms, we're gonna play Vampire the Masquerade.
So I have ran hundreds of games for I
Mm,
think over 1,000 people so far. So I have done a bit of literally everything, every campaign setting you can think of, not just D&D, Shadowrun, Star
yeah,
Wars,
yeah.
Vampire, Werewolf, like I've done everything. Usually on holidays, I will do a special game related to the subject of the game.
Mm,
For example, Passover, Stargate is just perfect for it, this Egyptian evil pharaoh, you free the slaves, just perfect. On Hanukkah, you can do something with the Hasmoneans, but
yeah.
generally, no, my games aren't like educational in the very strict sense. I don't
Mm,
try to use the game as a tool to teach anything except the game, except
yeah.
fantasy. I think there's a lot of value in games in of itself. It improves math skills, social skills, abstract thinking.
Yep.
But I don't have like games specifically based on some historical period or biblical period.
Hmm.
Uh, I also think it will be less fun for the kids because they studied it at school. They don't go to D&D to do more of what they do in
To do
school. They want
more.
to, yeah, it's escapism. They want to escape school,
Yeah,
not to be
yeah,
dragged back there.
yeah. Well, so this is interesting. Okay, so you got into it through gaming. I mean, that was a big door for me too. It wasn't the only door. I also was reading
Mhm.
books, but it kind of went hand in hand. Read Tolkien
Yeah.
and Asimov, play, Rollmaster and Traveler. Um, so how did you? At what point did you? So your first publication was Dungeon Magazine, was a some sort of
Yeah.
adventure you wrote. Was it a dungeon? Did you draw out the map and everything?
Actually, no, I was very proud. It was one of their first ever adventures. I think the second ever.
Oh
It was
yeah,
a detective story in the Agatha Christie style. You could actually complete the entire adventure without a single fight.
that's
So
now Eberron. Remind me, this is a sort of a it's like the a desert world
it's a
with its own whole
huge,
set of races and stuff, right?
it's like a huge cities.
Yeah.
It's after like a huge war, which devastated a big part of this world. It's kind of got a feel like it's a mix of, I guess, steampunk and fantasy.
Okay. Okay. I never played it. I have an image in my head, and I don't know if I'm
I will
confusing.
confess, I never played it either. Uh, I originally wrote this adventure for the Forgotten Realms. But I
Oh yeah,
said that,
okay.
we're publishing a new campaign setting and we want to have some material for it. So, like, we love your adventure. You should rewrite it for this new setting.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, yeah. So I mean, I'm just really skimming over. I think I'm thinking of some other setting, the one I have in my head.
Dark Sun,
Uh,
perhaps?
I think it is the Black Sun. Yeah, where Eberron it's talking about, using noir and steampunk elements
Hmm.
in urban settings. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, okay. Um, and that was 2005. Uh,
Yeah.
so at what point did you move from that to writing? Actually, I mean, that's the wrong question. Are you still writing and publishing game stuff as well?
No, I focused on fiction recently. I felt that gaming kind of, like, I felt that I said everything that I had to say, that if I do anything new, I would
Uh,
just be repeating myself. So it wouldn't be enjoyable or interesting for me. So I'm kind of on a break. Maybe I'll get some more ideas, but right now,
mhm,
I published a game called Rats. It's like a
mhm.
whole game. It's a campaign setting. It's a system. I think that was like my magnum opus when it comes to role-playing games. And then I said, okay, that's enough, that's the top of what I could do with gaming. Now it's time to do fiction.
And Rats is available now, right? Is it?
Yes, yes.
If someone wanted to buy Rats, could they go to say drivethrurpg.com or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
and find
it's
it?
there. It's a gorgeous book. Two of my friends illustrated it. It's an absolutely crazy game. Publishing it was an absolute nightmare. It was the first thing I've ever published by myself. And that's how I learned that writing something and publishing something are two very, very, very different things. Um, but I wanted to publish myself at least one game. I felt that, like, as a serious gamer, I had to do it at least once. And I'm very happy with the result.
Yeah. And that's Rats exclamation mark, a game of furry fury, right?
Yes, yes. It's a very silly game and I love it.
That's
You play rats who learn to talk. They basically get the power of speech back. And you don't know in the game if their history is real or if they made it up. They have this prophet called EE. He traveled around the world. He awakened all the rest and told them, you are the most oppressed people on the earth. You are the chosen people of God, not humans. Humans stole your place, and now it's time to have this grand revolution against humanity and restore our rightful place. But those rats are absolutely awful. And the majority of the game is just different kinds of rats fighting each other over philosophical or pretty selfish differences. And part of the game is that you're still playing animals. Like they're smart, they have special abilities. Some of them
Mhm.
have cool mutations, but they're still animals. So all the time you have to fight with these temptations. Like, yeah, you have a secret mission to steal a nuclear bomb, but there's a big chunk of cheese nearby. So, roll maybe the cheese is much more interesting than that nuclear bomb because you don't eat the cheese right now. And every time you advance in the game, you gain a random mutation. So as the game advances, you become less and less a normal rat, and you can eventually turn this weird thing with a turtle shell, a mosquito nose, a machine gun growing from your head. It's the wildest thing I've ever written.
That's that's fun. So that sort of sounds yeah, it sounds wild. It's got a little bit of gamma world
Mhm.
in it, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, is it in our world? Like can your rats travel to Mumbai and Paris? Is it, or are they
Yes,
interact with
absolutely. It's in
humans?
our world, and part of the setting is actually describing like what kind of red communities you have in different human cities, in different countries, and each red culture is a parody of a human culture. And his game is an equal opportunity offender. Like every big human culture gets like its own red version. Like the Japanese get the Nezumi, the Roma get the road rats, the Middle East has the holy rats. South America has the blood rats, which are inspired by Native American cultures. You have the corporate rats, which are inspired by greed and corporate culture.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they're like different clans of rats, and all have different special abilities. It's a very international game.
yeah. Uh, fun. Just out of curiosity, like how is it mechanically? Surely it must be fairly simple. It sounds like the kind of game
Yes.
where the fun is in the setting, not in the complex accuracy,
Yeah,
really detailed rules.
basically, the system is designed to be as random as possible. Part of the game is that it's quite unlikely for what you're trying to do to actually achieve what you wanted to achieve. Now, if in most role-playing games you are supposed to solve problems, this is the game where you create problems. So it's very wild, very random. It's very vaguely inspired by the old World of Darkness games, where you would draw like
Hmm. Hmm.
dice and count the successes.
Yep.
Uh, it's basically that I use D6s, and almost all rolls are opposed rolls. There are almost no passive checks. So even
Yep.
a very simple thing can go bad in a very unpredictable way. And there are a lot of random tables, a lot. Like half the book is random tables. I love random tables.
That's fun. That feels very old school. Have random
Yeah.
tables as opposed to like a sleek single mechanic that determines everything, right? Feels more modern. Um,
Yeah, no, that game is again, it's clunky on purpose because it's supposed to be chaotic.
yeah, yeah. Um, cool. So at what point, and you've written for lots of other games too. There's other game stuff you've done,
I
and I
have,
have
yeah.
some of it. Mongoose RuneQuest stuff you've written, for example.
I have, yeah, for
Yeah,
the Science of Portents magazine.
yeah, yeah. So, at what point did you start writing fiction without a game attached?
Um, I would like write short stories for fun,
Mm,
and I would submit them to various magazines. Again, usually they would reject, so sometimes they would publish stories. But at one point, I had like this idea for a project. And in retrospect, it was a very childish project, and I don't feel I've done it nearly as well as I could have done it today. But basically, I would like go on a lot of treks and a lot of hikes with my friends. And every place like inspires some fantasy thoughts when all you do is
mm,
talk about games and fantasy. So and obviously, Israel is a place very rich in history, so you can be going in the hills and passing various ruins and ancient
yeah.
temples and stuff like that. So
From really different periods, right? You could like a
yeah,
Crusader tower, maybe even like a ruin of an old French encampment or British encampment or something, but then like
like pretty close to
Philistine
my
Rome.
home, there is a castle which
Mm,
was built by the Crusaders,
mhm,
destroyed by the Arabs, rebuilt by the Mamluks, destroyed by the French, rebuilt by the Ottomans,
mm,
and then used by Palmach when they fought against the Jordanians. So and every layer is like different styles. So it's like this Frankensteinian monster of different styles, and it has arrow marks, bullet marks, catapult marks, cannon marks. The thing was bombed with everything possible. So
yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And basically, I wanted to write a fantasy or science fiction or horror story about each one of those cool locations. Like each one of these locations inspired some kind of story. So my idea was to write something which the geography, like each story, the first part was like almost a guide. It would describe the location, the nature, the feel of it, and then something insane would happen. So like the story about Masada started with like a guide to Masada, to the desert, and then you have like an entire the ghosts of an entire Roman legion attack a couple on a trip. Or there was a story taking place in Qumran in which a guy finds like an ancient scroll, which is a werebook. Like you have a werewolf, which is a person who turns into a wolf, and that's a werebook. That's a book which turns into a person occasionally.
That's that's fantastic.
Uh, and I crowdfunded it. And some of the people during the crowdfunding said, "Oh, I really like the idea, and I'm going to draw some illustrations for it, just inspired by the ideas." So it was like an illustrated storybook. And again, when I go over it again, I see that I didn't edit it well. I Many of the stories are clunky because it was my first effort, so it's very raw.
Yeah. And
But
when
a
is
lot
this
of
like,
people liked it, and that's okay. I can do fiction. I should get better at it. I should work in it, study it, but I can do it.
yeah. And sorry, did you say when this was? 2010, something like that?
Ah, it's a good question. I was already in university, so yeah, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fascinating. By the way, I think that sense of uh the layers and the sort of lost layers of history, right,
Hmm.
is is an important element in fantasy. And I think that um the fact that Americans tend not to perceive their own country that way, even though
Hmm.
that is exactly what America is like, but we
Of
just don't
course.
tend to see it. We sort of the towers aren't there anymore. We knocked them
Hmm.
down. We took them apart and built the rocks into farm walls and stuff,
Hmm.
right? We put freeways right through the middle of the mounds, and we
Hmm.
wanted the freeway to be straight, so we just cut a big hole in the middle of the mound, right? We did it all over the place. And so we don't perceive our country that way. And I think that's why there's that's sort of an obstacle to Americans writing American fantasy. It's why
Hmm.
so many fantasy writers in America really are setting their fantasy in Europe because they think Europe is like that's the land of like this depth, you know, time is deep, then America feels shallow to them. That's not right, but like that's the
Yeah,
perception.
ironically, Neil Gaiman, a British author, was like the one who wrote like a strictly American fantasy.
Yeah.
Like it took a foreigner to notice it.
Yeah. Although American Gods too did a lot of and this is not false, but like uh a big part of that is the importation of European gods, right? Into America.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's not false, right? If you're following the people, of course,
Hmm.
then you're sort of European descended Americans,
Hmm.
right? Like the history of my ancestors genetically, culturally,
Hmm.
sure, it goes back to various parts of Europe, right? To
Hmm.
Serbia and Denmark and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, super interesting. So what's the science fiction scene like in Israel? What's it like in terms of? I'm curious about every aspect of it. I mean, what's it like in the pop culture? What's it like for writers? Do you know a lot of other writers who are science fiction fantasy writers? Are people writing in
Uh,
Hebrew at all?
there is mostly young adult fantasy in Hebrew,
Hmm.
not a
Okay.
lot. I wouldn't say there is like at this point Israeli science fiction and fantasy, not in the sense that there aren't authors, there are authors, but in the sense that Israeli science fiction fantasy is still like just American style genre fiction, but in Hebrew. There are
Mhm.
some people who write some interesting work which tries to be more original, but that
Mhm.
always like draws you in the direction of religion, of religious
Mhm.
commentary, where the border between fantasy and not fantasy becomes very washed.
Mhm.
So, like in terms of like television programs, just stuff for children, there
Mhm.
have been no like, well, there have been some Israeli science fiction movies, but they're not worth talking about.
Mhm.
Nothing serious or shows. If there is some science fiction, so it's like near future, no space opera or something like that.
Mhm.
There are a lot of readers. It's very popular. There is a very strong readership, but all of those people, they know English and they will probably read in English, and all the kids
Interesting.
are reading Hebrew translation of English books. Like when you're in school, everyone is reading, the Red Pyramid, Sanderson, whatever, but just, translating the Hebrew.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
but when you have fantasy conventions, like we have Icon, that's the biggest fantasy convention. It does draw thousands of people. I'd say that about 5,000 people come there per day during the convention. And
Hmm.
you have a lot of people who play board games, who role-playing games are less popular. But
Hmm.
there are enough people for there to be a community, but it's not like a very mass thing.
Yeah. And icon, I mean, I assume the I is for Israel, Israel Con.
Yeah.
This is it a media convention? Like, did you have like do you get like someone like William Shatner to come and sign pictures of himself kind of thing?
Yeah. Usually they would have like a guest of honor who was like a famous author. They had
Hmm.
like Neil Gaiman, Stephen Bruce, Tim Power, and they would usually like give lectures. Usually those are lectures, games,
Yeah.
various merchants who come to sell their games or their books or their weird poetry. Always you have these guys going about they want to buy my poetry book.
Mm.
Um, but I think mostly it's lectures and kind of workshops.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. In my experience in the US, um, conventions tend to be either sort of so that sounds like it's more on the literary end, like your guest of honor is a writer.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's but that's big. That's for a literary convention. 5,000 people is very large. Um, I don't know what the attendance of WorldCon is, but I think it sounds like Icon is probably pretty comparable. Um,
Yeah, but it's not Gen Con. Let's put it that way.
yeah, okay, but Gen Con isn't a literary con either. It's a game convention.
Yeah.
It's a third thing. Yeah. Um, okay, interesting. So, uh, so you described yourself as being a post-colonial writer, not necessarily. Sometimes that means um, I am a Marxist writing in
Hmm.
Uganda. I hate the West. Right? Is sometimes what that
Yeah.
means. Right? Uh,
I'm like the
colonialism
exact
was
opposite. And, I love the
yeah.
West, and look West. Here's what I have to offer. Maybe you like it also.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Do you feel like that there's a that I mean it's interesting because I'm hearing that sort of the science fiction scene in Israel is and this is consistent with what I've seen in Italy, for example. Okay, like Italy doesn't seem to it seems like the science fiction scene in Italy is heavily looks to the English
Hmm.
language, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's that man, my guess is that's probably just true in a lot of the world.
Hmm.
Um, so, do you feel like a lot of writers, science fiction, fantasy writers in who are working in Israel, like on some level, uh, a significant theme, or an important element is working out their relationship with the English language, with the British, with the West on some level? Is that a is that a big theme for a lot of them?
It's a very interesting question, and I am challenged to answer it because when I think about like famous Israeli
Mhm.
science fiction fantasy authors, for the part of their Israel-ness, if there is like such a quality,
Yeah.
usually isn't very important. Like you have this Shadow and Bone series.
Hmm.
The author is Israeli, but there is nothing about this series which is Israeli in any way. She's just an author. So on the
Oh.
other hand, you have like Lavi Tidhar, who like puts his Israelness out there. But I think that what he's doing is like taking Israel, something exotic, something like a
Hmm.
gimmick. But again, I don't feel that they are like part of the Israeli scene. I feel they're like American authors who
They're
happen to be
part of that scene.
writing, yes, about Israel. Like at this point, I wouldn't say there's like really an Israeli science fiction world.
That's interesting. So maybe that has to do with the size of the market. Maybe to reach an audience, you basically have to be publishing in the U.S. or in the UK, and be part of that scene.
Uh, Perhaps, I mean, if you go into a bookstore, it's full of Hebrew books.
Yeah.
Some of them are genre fiction. but as I said, like the fantasy and science fiction stuff is more aimed toward kids, so I'm not reading
Mhm.
it. So honestly, I don't feel qualified to really comment on it. I don't
Yeah.
know how big are the sales, but you don't really see people talking about it or like posting about it online. So it's not something that's very, there isn't
It
a lot
feels
of buzz about it.
Yeah, it feels like if you'd been to Icon and there was an active scene trying to promote Israeli science fiction for Israelis, it feels like that's a place where it would exist. It would
Yes.
be visible.
They had the Geffen Award. They have like awards for Israeli fiction for Israeli authors.
Yeah.
It was like never a big thing. It was never something that you would like see in mainstream media or something random people would talk about.
Yeah.
It's not like the Hugo or the Nebula or the Worldcon awards that people just
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
it online and argue about it in forums. And you had the Sad Puppies movement. It was like a big thing. It reached media. Not of the sort in Israel. In Israel, it's very subdued, very. It feels like it's a very small group of people. Most of the readers, they read fantasy, they read science fiction, but they're not part of like a scene.
Yeah. That's interesting. I actually didn't know the Sky and Bone. What is this? I didn't know that actually series at all. But Levi Tidhar was the one that came to my mind, and I think your take is probably mine also, right? So I think about like some of his books could just as easily be written
Mhm.
by a British author, right, or whoever.
Yeah.
And the ones that are distinctive, I'm thinking about like Jesus and the Eightfold Path, in which Jesus is kind of a kung fu master,
Mhm.
and he has a collection of short stories called Hebrew Punk. And my memory, the one I remember is there's a story, and I think it's kind of a cyberpunk story, but one of the main characters in it is a tzaddik, and he has
Mhm.
basically kind of mystical powers in this
Mhm.
cyberpunk setting, right? And it does feel more like, um, hey, I'm writing in the American scene or the British
Mhm.
scene, but let me sort of show you something cool of mine, right? Which I think that's great. That's not
Yes.
I don't that's not a criticism, but as opposed to here's the story that I'm going to tell to other Israeli writers about
Mhm.
ourselves. That's a maybe different dynamic.
Yeah, the vast majority of like actually Israeli fiction, which is very Israeli,
Mm,
very Asli,
hmm
usually it would be like drama or detective fiction. A lot of detective fiction and a
mm.
lot of drama, and a lot of it is what a friend of mine likes to call misery porn. As the more depressing your book is, the more the more a real author you are. Like if you manage to like really make people depressed and really show them how awful everything is, then you're a great author. So that's like what academia here promotes. That's what like international media talks about. The great Israeli author must hate himself, hate his life, show you how awful everything is.
That's funny. I saw an
Yeah.
interview with Jerry Seinfeld. I think it was I forget. I think it might have been Norm Macdonald interviewing him, but Jerry he told a joke, and the joke he goes, so a Jewish businessman runs into his friend who's also a businessman but who's a Gentile, and he says, "Hey, how's business?" And the Gentile says, "Great." And that's the whole joke. And I think it's because of this sort of maybe stereotype, right? This
I think it's a joke that you probably need to be Jewish to really understand it,
Yeah.
because a Jew will never say great. Like if everything is great, maybe he'll say, praise the Lord or something like that, but he
Right.
would never say everything is good.
Right.
Like it can save you time to say how awful are things. And
Yeah.
the ironic thing is that Israel is one of the happiest countries in the world. Like people complain all the time, they're so green, but in every by every measure, it's
Yeah.
like one of the happiest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Maybe because they let out all their misery, they don't keep anything inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe that's
but
right.
perhaps, but I am not a fan of this genre. I'm not a fan
Yeah.
of this approach. I don't think it's a crime to write things that are fun. I don't think that an author who doesn't want to abuse his audience is a bad author.
Yeah.
And I actually had even some problems with that in school, uh, because like very early, well, I obviously grew up on some Soviet ethos, and on a Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is obviously a sad day, you remember a disaster, but I spoke about how my grandparents were in the Red Army and they blew off Nazi tanks, and they conquered Hungary and shot down German planes. And like my cousin's grandfather fought the Japanese. So, I talk about, the adventure, the action, and like the teacher would, no, 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 we don't do that here. uh, you know, we're supposed to focus, on the misery and the suffering. And yeah, but there is also victory in World War II. We won the war. Because when I said we, I thought, the Jews of the Red Army. The Red Army won.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, 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 nothing happy. No, no, no. Keep it for another day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Uh, that's interesting. Maybe this is a much bigger conversation, but I was talking with, man, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to my son the other day. We were walking the
Hmm.
dog and talking about this is sort of ancient Jewish literature, right?
Hmm.
So the Tanakh, but also things like the Dead Sea Scrolls or books that we'd call pseudepigraphical, like Jubilees or
Hmm.
Enoch or all this stuff. And I said, in my experience, in one of the themes that runs through all of those literatures is a sense of something is wrong, something is broken. Often it's sort of we have made a great mistake, right? There's like a sense of loss, and um, and some of those kinds of Judaism don't even exist anymore, right? Like the Jews who wrote the Ethiopic Apocalypse
Hmm.
of Enoch, right? Um, so that's interesting. That's a very maybe we're seeing here sort of a manifestation of a very, very big, long-lasting kind of
But
cultural phenomenon.
if you look at Judaism not as a separate religion, but as
Mm,
another ancient Semitic religion, which has
mm,
happened to survive to this day, and if you look at it in the
hmm.
context of other religions like the Phoenician religion, the
Hmm.
Mesopotamian religions, so
Yeah,
always have the idea that the gods. Now, I'm talking about the pagan times. The gods have
yeah,
created
sure,
humanity in order to
sure,
worship them.
sure.
Um, Nowhere do they say that God loves you. That came later. The gods don't love
Mhm.
you. Like they've created you to worship them, and
Yeah,
the world was perfect, and you should feel bad because you are not perfect.
yeah.
And like these are cultures that look back. Like
Mm,
if you take Spengler's model, when speaks about the Apollonian cultures, the Faustian
mm,
culture, the Messianic culture, then Western culture is Faustian. It looks forward. How can I improve myself? How can I progress? How can I get better?
mm.
And the Middle Eastern cultures, their idea is how can I make things less terrible? I mean, things are going to get worse, but how can I make them less worse? How can I slow down the pace
That's
of
interesting.
deterioration?
Yeah.
So Jews have like they're a culture that survived from that time, and that's like the basis of Jewish thinking. If I even took at modern Jewish mysticism, the idea of tikkun olam,
Hmm.
it was like hijacked by leftists, and they turned into some kind of Marxism, but that's not what it means. Their idea is that when the world was created, God, who is perfect, who is endless, has contracted himself. And in that action, the world was literally broken, and like shards of
Hmm.
the broken world fell down. And by performing the mitzvot, by doing these spiritual things, you fix the world. So you don't have like a good world which you improve. You have a broken world which you attempt to fix as much as you can. So the very basic
Yeah,
approach is it's like things are bad, and you can make them a little better,
yeah,
which is very different from the Western Faustian approach of things are great, but you can make them even better.
yeah,
Like it's not progress; it's fixing what is broken.
yeah. That's interesting. Um, I mean, this is very cheap anthropology, cheap psychology on my part, but like, maybe some of this connects with, what is it like to live on the Tigris and the Euphrates, for example, where the same river that sort of makes things fertile also can be very violent and destroy your
Yeah.
towns, right? But
Yes.
also, I mean, Ashdod's another kind of interesting example. So, um, that the coastal strip north of on the Mediterranean, north of Egypt,
Hmm.
right? Um, Basically lay between superpowers for
Hmm.
several millennia, right? The Hittites in the
Hmm.
north and Egypt in the south, and
Hmm.
the Amorites and the Assyrians and
Yeah.
the Babylonians in the Fertile Crescent. And so Ashdod and Ashkelon and Gaza are basically on a
Hmm.
highway between
Yeah.
powers who would come back and forth and fight each other over the top of whoever was lying, basically in Judea,
Hmm.
the area around Judea. And maybe that's sort of part of that mentality too, right? Is like an awareness of the fragility of life, and all it takes is a new pharaoh who decides he wants to go, you know, uh
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah.
Like
Um,
if you look at the Bible, like most of the Bible is, the people did something bad, God punished them. They became good. They liberated themselves. They did something bad. God punished them.
right.
So you describe these like when you spoke about the river. So you have this like all of these ancient people. They had storm gods. Like the storm gives you water. It gives you life. You can't survive it. But the
Mhm.
storm can also
But
flog you and
also,
destroy you. Yes. So the thing which is the source of your power is also the source of your destruction. Your existence is very fragile, as opposed to someone who lives in this vast, bountiful forest who doesn't feel that his existence any moment can be just washed away.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, super interesting.
Like I'm looking at the window right now, and
Yeah.
it's a very ancient city, but there are no ancient buildings here. All the buildings are modern because, like every few centuries, someone would come and just, remove the city.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's interesting to me. One consequence of that, right, is an archaeology. Nobody cared about archaeology before about, I don't know, 1880 or something, right? Nobody cared to go look like in the US, I think specifically it's 1848. The Smithsonian Institute publishes its first book. It's two guys who go and survey all of the mounds that they can get their hands on. They're not archaeologists because nobody's an archaeologist. One of them's a dentist. I forget what the other guy does, right? Prior to about that time, uh, you didn't care where the ruined wall came
Hmm.
from or the standing stone and right. So one of the fascinating things to me is um, the sort of rapid pace in recent decades, especially how we learn more and more and more about people who lived sometimes 4,000 years ago,
Hmm.
because we're finding ways to cut slices into a modern city and
Yeah.
see what lies under it, or fire little sound pings or light pings down
For
into the ground.
example, yeah, in Israel, it's illegal to start construction project without first doing an archaeological survey. So every time someone wants to build a mall or something, they first have to dig there, and very often people find interesting artifacts. I have a friend who is an archaeologist. Usually they don't find like ancient things; they find like Ottoman stuff, Mamluk stuff, but still, like almost always, you find some layers from the past.
Yeah, yeah, super interesting. So I look, this is um okay, so how I know you is I first met you because I volunteered to do the acquisitions editing for Wordfire
Hmm.
Press, and I'm gonna totally forget the year, but it's something like in
Hmm.
2015, and I did it for I think 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, and acquired books for Kevin Anderson's publishing company, including one of yours. Which I would say, if you had to describe it in one word, I would say it is hilarious. It was very funny. It was a space opera about a kidnapped kidnapped princess on like I haven't read it in years, but it was in like a space station with all these sort of
Yeah.
um like Enlightenment, like 19th century gonzo kind of
Hmm.
characters, but in space.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, so um, so it's interesting. Where did this come from? Because our sort of discussion of like, ooh, archaeology, the world is ancient, the world,
Mhm.
the world is a problem, it's broken. You're not that guy. So it doesn't feel like that's obviously like a Russian
Mhm.
sort of point of view either. How
No,
is it just you?
um,
Is your
okay,
family
so
very
about the
optimistic?
Russian point of view, Dostoevsky said that there is the Russian person has one real need. It's not water, it's not bread, it's suffering. It's the only thing the Russian man cannot live without. So no, that's definitely not a Russian point of view. That's very much a book in the American tradition, like maybe older science fiction, like again, as I mentioned, Shackley is very amusing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, or I keep forgetting the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Douglas Adams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
this
like
is the
something
one I
like
was
that.
thinking of. Yeah. Although
Um,
he's English, of course. Yeah.
yeah. What happened is that one time a friend and I were having a chat late at night, and we
Yeah.
were just started throwing random ideas at each other. And he's like, "Oh no, the princess was kidnapped by von Schmidt. What will she do?" And I said, "Oh, the dinosaur will help her." And but the dinosaur has betrayed her. And we just threw random ideas, and then we went to bed. And then I looked at the chat and said, "Actually, that's not bad. That could be a book." And what I did is I mostly drew on my experience from LARPs,
Mm.
where you have these very wild dynamics because people in LARP almost never really think about the consequences of what they do because these games last like 1 day, 2 days usually. It's not like a long campaign, so you're free to experiment. So basically, I thought, okay, so there's this princess. She found herself in this bad company. Everyone is absolutely obsessed with decorum. So even if they're going to do something nasty, they're still going to be polite about it. And each time, okay, here's a problem. How am I going to solve this problem? Here's a problem. How am I going to solve this problem? So I kind of played a role-playing game with myself. And honestly, I didn't plan to make it a novel. Just played this game with myself and wrote it down. And at some point, I noticed that it was 80,000 words. And I had some yeah, stating it to various publishers. Obviously, you liked it, but it started as a game with myself. I didn't have like an outline or a story I wanted to tell. Each solution, there's a predicament, there's another predicament, and your solution causes another predicament. How are you going to solve it? So just each time I and play the game, and that's cool.
Yeah. Fantastic. Is that still in print? Is that with Wordfire, or is that something that you're publishing now? Or
Um, no, it's not currently in print by Wordfire. I would like to bring it back. The contract has ended. There's also an audiobook version, but I'll probably will want to revise it a little because again, I feel that I have progressed since then as an
sure.
author. So like there are some technical aspects I think the story is fun. I don't think the story needs any revisions, but from pure technical point of view, I think I can improve it and get back to it when I have the
Yeah.
time. So it will be back.
Yeah.
Also, I have a friend, like an online friend, who read the book and he decided to write an unofficial sequel.
Ah,
And he actually wrote a very nice sequel. Um, and I told him that once my book is revised and back in publishing, let's try to publish your sequel as well.
yeah.
Because that's like a fanfic, but it's fantastic. It's very funny. It's absolutely hilarious and crazy. And yeah, so there's also already a shared world, like in the good old days,
Yeah. Yeah.
like when you had the magazine wars, where you had lots of authors contribute to the same setting.
Yeah, like Thieves World, for example.
Yeah,
Which I can't remember how many anthologies ended up being published of Thieves World, but I think it was something like 15. It was a lot.
yeah.
over time, which is one setting and few dozen writers.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, really cool. So, all right. Well, listen, we're gonna come back and talk more in the future. Um, uh, but this has been a fun kind of get to know Uri kind of discussion, I think. Fun for
yeah.
me. We'll post it and see what people say.
It's been a
What?
pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure too. Where should people follow you? You're pretty big on X, actually. You're like 60,000 followers or something now.
Yeah,
Is it
61.
61? It's is it Verminous or Verminous M? What's your
Verminous M. Yes, Verminous M.
yeah.
That's my main hunt. Although on Twitter I mostly write about it's X now, sorry. On X I mostly write about politics
Hmm,
and also post photos of interesting stuff I encounter. I like to walk a lot, so
yeah.
I see stuff. It's less about the literary and fantasy aspect of my life right now,
Hmm,
because we are fighting a war and I'm trying to make my modest contribution.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that is where I'm the most active.
Hmm.
Like, so yeah,
Well,
if someone wants to follow me, that's the most recommended place.
is that the most recommended? Okay. I know you've had various YouTube channels, right? Jubatinsky, was it
Yeah,
which is like a
I did. Yeah.
Tyrannosaurus that talks about history of Israel or tries to
Yes,
explain
yes.
Israel Arab or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I kind of neglected this project, but yes, we had this idea. I'm a huge fan of Jabotinsky,
Yeah,
who, by the way, wrote a very interesting book, which it's not a fantasy book, but it reads like a fantasy book.
yeah.
He wrote a book about Samson.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like Conan the Barbarian. He goes places, he fights the Philistines. It's a very fun book, and so he's also an interesting fiction author. People mostly know him from his political work. In any case, so I had this funny idea of turning it into a Jew bot Tinsky, like a Jewish robot,
Yeah,
and to just tell interesting stuff about Israel. Um, and the problem is that I did it with a friend, and we actually did all the animation by ourselves. Back then, you couldn't use AI for shortcuts, so it was a
yeah,
lot of work. But
yeah,
yeah, the channel is there. But I'm not very active in YouTube right now. I do hope to start posting more videos soon, but probably it won't be animation. It was just so much work. It will just be a talking head.
yeah. All right. So people should follow you on X is
Yes,
the
absolutely.
is the short answer. Okay, fantastic. Well, Uri,
It's the shortest answer possible. It's literally one letter. It's literally
that's
impossible
right.
to give a
That's
shorter
right.
answer.
Where should people follow you? X. So,
Yeah,
yeah. Very good. Uri, thanks very much for coming
it's
on
been
the
a pleasure.
program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and to all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And remember, the humans win in the end.